pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm announcing that we had an executive session to discuss matters of litigation and potential litigation. Public comment policy review. So, copy of the resolution will be available to the public, and Ken will review the rules. Ken, do you want to?
Yeah, very briefly, I think the last meetings haven't been all that productive. We're trying to balance the public's right to participate, at the same time not interrupt or cast aspersions against the gentlemen that sit up here, myself included actually. And so, I don't know who had the foresight, but 2 years ago, a resolution was adopted by the Board of Supervisors of this township, and it specifies a number of things about how the meeting should be conducted and the agenda. But in particular, to my comments now, it says that a public hearing, a public comment period will be held at the beginning of each meeting for residents or taxpayers to make general comments and/or specific comments for all items listed on the meeting agenda. Part 2 then says, it talks about items that aren't on the agenda, but they're going to have official action. I think essentially that's moot. Would you agree with me, Tracy? Because we don't take official action on any matter that's not on the agenda.
Correct.
So part 2 of this ordinance is essentially, I think, not applicable. The third part says the chairman of the board will preside over public comment period and may, within his discretion, A, recognize individuals wishing to offer comment, B, require the name and street address for each person, allocate time available among individuals, and could rule out of order scandalous, impertinent, or redundant comment or any comment, the discernible purpose of which is to disrupt or prevent the conduct of the meeting, including the questioning of or debating with individual members of the board. It goes on in the next paragraph to say that maximum time limit allowed for individuals to offer comment will be 3 minutes unless the board determines in its discretion that more time is required. If any resident wants more time and would exceed the 3-minute period, they should submit a written request in advance of the meeting. It says 7 days in advance. The township manager will also kind of keep track of time and announce when 2 minutes have elapsed and when time has expired. So that's not something this board is doing. This is something that was in effect 2 years ago. We're just going to try to get back to that, have a little bit more orderly meetings. I, for one, think it's great that people are out and participating. I go to a lot of township meetings where there are a lot of people, and I go to more meetings where there aren't anybody. So it's a public forum, but we have business to conduct. It's the township's business, and we ask your indulgence to follow the rules. And if you want to make comments, make them productive. That's all.
Okay, thank you. So with that, we are going to be doing public comments. We are going to ask folks to step up to the podium, make those comments, and identify themselves and where they live, and we'll be following the ordinances. So with that, I open it to public comments. Do I have any public comments? And actually, Ken, you're going to preside over this section. Is that correct? Or
I just read something that says you.
Okay, well then I'm gonna, okay, that's fine. All right, well then, who has any public comments?
There you go.
Identify yourself.
Perfect. Les Benzak, Swayford Road. On that policy, so the chair, is it possible, the chair only can select people they want or don't want at the meeting? Or what does that policy say? You said it's at the discretion of the chair.
I read it admittedly fast. A copy is available. I don't know if it's on the website, but just ask. A copy, I was just given a copy this evening. It says, I don't think it says that. It's certainly not intended that way. Where did it just go? It says that, I think it just says the chairman will recognize individuals wishing to offer. In other words, he will be, asking who wants to make a comment. Whether you raise your hand or you nod or you stand up, when he acknowledges or recognizes you, then it would be your turn. That's all that says.
So you can't pick and
Not your
choose.
name's less, and I heard you last month, we don't want to hear it again. No, he doesn't have that discretion.
Yeah, we don't have good history here, so that's good to know that. Also, will there be public comments at the end of the meeting?
This policy doesn't speak to it, it's on the agenda tonight, the
Sure.
answer is yes for tonight, am I correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
And is that is that going to continue, or, because how can you really comment on something if we haven't gone over it in the agenda? And if we can't speak the agenda, I think at the discretion of the chair, that kind of doesn't make sense either. So is the intent to keep comments at the end of the meeting?
Do you have an answer to that?
I will, the plan is to follow the policy.
It's not on policy.
So only in the beginning.
The
It
ordinance
does-
is for the beginning, that's what it says.
This resolution will say if there's not enough time for public comment at the meeting, the board may allow additional public comment at the end of the meeting. Defer the public comment to a meeting held before the next regular meeting or until the next regular meeting.
Yeah, this is not common practice. I mean, how do you comment on something if it hasn't hit the agenda first? So,
Well, I
so the
can
intention is that,
tell you also, well, I mean, I'll share with you, it's not uncommon that boards will have a matter on the agenda and before the vote, ask if there's any public comment. And put public comment at the end period. Again, if it's consistent and productive, I don't see it, as a problem, but this board's gonna decide whether they'll do it. I think maybe we take tonight, it's on the agenda, it's going to happen, and maybe that's a decision we defer to later. Let's see how it works out tonight.
very good, thank you.
That's the best answer I can give. Really.
Thank you. Okay. Other public comments? Okay, there are no other public comments. Okay, thank you. Minutes. Approval of the February 2023, February 9, and March 9 Board of Supervisors minutes.
All right, if you could break out the first two, because Tom was a supervisor for those two, so those two can only be voted on by Ron and John.
Right.
Oh, and then Ron, you
I
can't
vote
vote
on.
on the last one.
Yes.
Right.
All right. Tracy, I gave you some comments about this just before this meeting. I need to make some adjustments to these.
To all three?
I think so. So, okay.
All right, then do you want to postpone?
We'll postpone. Okay.
Can I make a public comment real quick?
I mean, we're gonna start going back into the process that we just
I'm
said.
sorry.
So we're gonna hold,
Public comment period is the
I'm
last.
sorry.
thank you. Okay,
I'm sorry for that.
any comments on that? Or just-
I can only comment on the last meeting, so I have no questions on
Okay. All right, treasurer's report, bills to be paid.
Okay, so the treasurer's report is in front of you this evening. Generally, revenues are on track for this time of year, as are expenditures. Expenditures are actually a little bit low. Our real estate transfers are down from last year, but that was to be expected, just with the changing economy, so we adjusted our budget to anticipate that.
Okay. I will make a motion to accept the treasurer's report as presented and file for audit. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
So the bills list before you is for a total of $153,951.98. This includes the second payment for the road mower of approximately $90,000. So that's why it's a big payment again this month. We had chosen to spread that over 2 months.
Okay. Okay. All right. Then I will make a motion to approve payment of the bills totaling $153,951.98 and to advance to the treasurer the funds to pay the needed bills or expenditures to save penalties to accrue interest and payroll prior to the Board of Supervisors' regular meeting, May 11, 2023. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, emergency services.
Okay, so Plymouth Community Ambulance had 22 calls this past month, and the fire company had 19 calls.
Okay. Water sewer plants report, curriculum crossings, and Ivy Ridge.
No violations to report. Plants are running good. Been slowly changing over all the outside lights to LED, just by converting the fixtures. So it's just cost of the bulb. It's not replacing the fixtures. And Hawk is coming out tomorrow. Look at the DO meter. That one's probably, there's 3 generations already since that one. So that's how outdated it is.
So DO meter is a dissolved oxygen meter,
Yeah.
just so everyone knows.
And it's bad, so I'm just running on manual. Normally it sends the signal back to the panel, so it VFDs then on the blower, ramp up and down, which saves electricity. So there's no demand, then the blower runs down on minimal.
Okay.
So you get better control of the plant, save electricity.
Okay.
That's about it.
All right. Public Works road report.
Roadside swell maintenance, reshaping ditches on BoS, Whitesburg. Potholes, road edges as usual. Mowing season has begun. Tree work on Faust Road and prep for 2023 road project. Inlet repairs / maintenance on Creek Lane. Work orders as requested. And equipment repairs, the backhoe had to start a replacement in-house. That is it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Engineers, civil engineers report.
Okay, LTL has updated the engineer's report for the month of April, forwarded it on to the township for their distribution. Just to the highlights, Faust Sweetsburg paving project is a separate line item on your agenda, but just to bring you up to speed on that. Project was advertised, bids were opened at your last meeting, and at that point, the board had authorized LTL to issue the apparent low bidder notification and notice to proceed letter when all required paperwork was received back from the contractor, the low bid contractor doing the work. We did receive the proper paperwork. We did issue the apparent low bidder notification to let the contractor know to send that paperwork back to us. We did get that paperwork, and that now the township has a copy of the contract that needs to be executed, and then at that point, the original will stay with the township, and I will take a copy for LTL's records and send a copy back to the contractor with the notice to proceed.
Thank you.
I can answer any questions if you have it, but we're on schedule. Everything is, there's no major issues with that. We're moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, what questions do you have?
What was pertaining this year?
Really?
This is not a big decision.
So are we taking these questions in the middle of these, or not, based on the way this is working?
If, I think you have to adopt a practice of if there's going to be a vote or a decision, you can invite public comment. I think that was more of a report, but no official action taken, so I don't think it's required to invite public comment.
All right, I'll talk to you afterwards, all right?
I wanted to know who did, well, it wasn't a biggie.
Okay. Building inspector and zoning report.
So this past month, the building inspector issued 7 permits and did 6 inspections. Regarding zoning issues, we have for the property at 1646 Gravel Pike, that's scheduled for a hearing in front of the district judge Wednesday, April 19th, I believe. Hopefully it will not get continued because it's a mess out there. We've also had the code enforcement officer pursue complaints we got regarding 1716 Snyder Road, which is a trailer that does not have a door on it. It's not in use, and so we've sent a letter to the owner who's in a different state, and we're trying to get some compliance there. If not, then we'll have to work with Ken on figuring out how to secure the space, put a lien on the property most likely. I think those are some of the big items in zoning.
Okay, thank you. Planning commission.
The planning commission did meet last month, focused on the water supply ordinance, which we'll be talking about here in a couple items.
Okay. Regional planning commission.
I don't believe they met this past month.
Okay. Parks and recreation.
Do we have anyone? Oh, hi.
Tracy, did you talk about the grants at the last meeting?
I may have mentioned them briefly,
Okay.
but you can certainly mention them again.
Okay. So we received two grants that Tracy submitted last year. One for the building next door for some renovations on that, and also for the playground at this facility. The other things that we have going on right now, we have some Eagle Scout projects in the works, and we're planning for Community Day. And that's about it.
Okay. Thank you. Manager update.
Not a whole lot to update. We'll be talking about most of the items here on the agenda tonight. We have received the hydrant study for Perkiomen Crossing, and that will be, a presentation will be made for that study on May 4th at 7 p.m. And that's going to be over at St. Luke's Church, so that we have a bigger meeting space for that presentation.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Old business. Resolution 2023-03, Perkiomen Crossing, Operation and Maintenance Manual, and Emergency Response Plan.
So this was provided to you at your March meeting, and these were some pretty big documents. I know you wanted more time to be able to review them. If you need more time, you can obviously postpone this, or if you're prepared to adopt those documents, we can do that, have you do that tonight.
Okay. Do you have any thoughts on these? Did you review them? And, I mean, I looked through it, I didn't find anything out of sorts. It seems like it's straightforward. It's an operation plan for the project, right? Okay. All right, then I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2023-03, adopting Perkiomen Crossing Operation Maintenance Manual and Emergency Response Plan. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. New business. Resolution 2023-04, Water Supply Ordinance Authorization for Public Hearing.
So we had hoped to be able to adopt this tonight, but after the Planning Commission meeting, we learned of some additional advertising requirements for such an amendment, which requires us to push out the adoption. So at this point, because we have to push it out, at the Planning Commission, there had been some discussion about incorporating what's called bonding language, and that's essentially money that the developer would have to put up for every house built into a fund, so that over a future number of years, which what we're proposing is 7 years after the development is developed, that pot of money would stay there in case there was a detrimental impact on a surrounding well within a half a mile. And then if there were, then those funds could be used to repair that well, to either dig it deeper or to give the property owner the option to tie into development's water system. So we did incorporate some of that language into the draft ordinance. In addition, some of the big changes proposed for this water supply ordinance is to increase the monitoring of surrounding wells from a quarter mile to a half a mile to, so that a developer would have to monitor more wells further out. And then there were some other smaller amendments that are being proposed. So tonight, this resolution is to authorize the public hearing for this ordinance. And the resolution is proposing to have the hearing for the ordinance on May 4th at 7 p.m. No, 6 p.m. Sorry,
6 p.m.
getting my meetings. So 6 p.m., May 4th, at the church across the street. So if you pass the resolution tonight, we will advertise it. I did this morning post the draft ordinance on the website, so it's under documents and draft documents. But if anyone can't find it, you can email us and we'll get it to you, okay? So I think that's kind of it in a nutshell.
Okay. All right. Then I will make a motion to approve resolution 2023-04 to authorize a public hearing on Thursday, May 4th, 2023 at 6 p.m. to be held at St. Luke's Lutheran Church located at 2306 Big Road. 3206 Big Road, Zieglersville, PA, to consider updates to the Upper Frederick Township subdivision and land development ordinance relating to water supply standards. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Resolution 2305 to allow Thomas Trojansky to be a signatory for the township. So, can we explain what that is?
Sure,
To
so, yes, so Mr. Trajanski is a new supervisor, and therefore to allow him to sign checks and to sign different township documents, we do need to have him as a signatory for the township, and that's what this document does.
Okay, thank you. Then I will make a motion to approve resolution 23-05 to approve Thomas Trojansky as a corporate signer for Upper Frederick Township. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Next steps regarding architectural concept plans for meeting room and renovation.
So we have been working with an architecture firm to help us come up with concepts for an enlarged meeting room and renovations to the admin department, and then also future plans for expansion of the public works area. The three general alternatives that have been looked at for the meeting room is, first of all, the schoolhouse that we purchased last year. It has the main building is approximately double the size of this room, which is essentially kind of what we were looking for. So that's one alternative. Another alternative